I remember the day I received the text like it was a punch to the gut. You're not welcome at the reunion. Do not bother showing up. It came from my cousin Mia, chief organizer of our year's annual family reunion at the old beach house up on Sunset Ridge. For as long as I could remember, that house had been a joyous hub. Grandparents swapping stories of old war days on the porch, uncles firing up the grill, kids chasing waves until their cheeks burned pink. Then one year, after my big fight with Aunt Linda over inheritance drama and my coming out at last year's reunion, too much drama, she'd sniffed. I was banned. No invitation, no welcome, not even a sorry. You're hurt our feelings. I stared at the text on my phone, thumb hovering over reply. What could I say? I'm sorry you hate me. I was tired of groveling. I tossed my phone onto the couch and walked to the window. The Atlantic gaped, restless and indifferent. Behind me, the old beach house sat hidden by scraggly dunes, just as I like it, because I'd bought it 6 months ago, long before the text arrived. Secretly, quietly, with money I'd saved from my app startup. Not that anyone knew. I'd hinted at traveling for work, but no one asked for details. That night, I packed my car, surfboard, duffel, a cask of bourbon, and a couple of fishing poles, just in case I felt the itch to cast a line. I didn't tell a soul. I knew the reunion was scheduled for Saturday, but I arrived Friday afternoon, pulling up to the weathered screen door as the sun slanted golden on the trim. I rounded the curb, flicked the hazard lights, and slipped inside. The house smelled like salt and old pine, familiar and comforting. I dropped my bag by the foot of the stairs and ran a hand along the rail. It was smooth, varnished decades ago, now worn where generations had slid down it. I set the board on the deck, cracked open the bourbon, and poured 2 fingers into a glass, watching the amber glow. This was home, which meant the only way they'd see me was if they crossed the threshold. Saturday morning, I awoke to seagulls squawking and the spray of waves. Coffee came first. I lit logs in the stone fireplace, boiled water in the ancient kettle, discovered behind the cabinets, and sat on the porch. Inboard, I spied a battered wooden sign. Welcome to Beach House Family Reunion, 2024. Left behind by Mia last year. I frowned. She'd sent maps to cousins, engraved little wooden arrow stakes to guide them to the driveway, but stopped me. Now the map stakes were still there, leading straight to my door. Before I could sit more, the engine rumble told me guests were arriving. First truck, then SUV, then the van full of cousins. I peeked around the corner. Mia drove up, face bright in a sundress, coasting right past the no parking stake. Behind her, Dad honked the horn. He'd do anything for Mom's approval. Mom sat beside him, clutching her pearls as if she'd never touched the sand. Uncles, aunts, siblings, they piled out, arms loaded with coolers, charcuterie boards, and board games sealed in plastic wrap. I watched them swarm the front lawn. They set up the folding tables, flung open the coolers, and began unloading. Mia spread her arms. Family welcome, she cried, scanning for me, not finding me. The house looks great. Thank you, Mom and Dad. Mom sipped her iced tea. It's a new year. Time for fresh starts. I bit my lip, hearing fresh starts as code. They looked out at the house as if they'd never noticed the deck boards splintering, the shutters hanging crooked. I listened as Mia barked orders. Liberate the beach chairs. Set up the volleyball net. Aunt Ruth, you've got games. They never suspected. I crept inside, grabbed the key from the hook by the door. They still used my old key stashed there, and slipped into the living room. I stood still, chest tight, as their laughter drifted through the screen door. Then I tapped my phone. Group chat me. Hey y'all, be right there. Can't believe I nearly forgot the wine. Coming down in 5. Within seconds, 4 texts. Finally, we missed you. Wine. See you soon. I smiled, my plan unfolding perfectly. I tucked my phone back into a pocket, grabbed a case of Chardonnay and Pinot, and strolled down the stairs. They saw me, or thought they did, and blinked. Mia, I said cheerily, stepping onto the lawn. I didn't know the reunion was this weekend. She stared, slack-jawed. Sam? Her perfect beach hair melted into confusion. Dad looked from me to Mom, back again. Sam, you're here. He swallowed. We thought you didn't want to come. I grinned, popping the top of a bottle. Turns out, I didn't want to miss out. This house has a great wine cellar. Mom's face flickered, embarrassment, then irritation.
You own this place?
I nodded, uncorked a bottle and poured into plastic cups, offering them around. Last spring, listed for 10 grand, nearly gave it away. Thought it'd be perfect for family memories if invited. They accepted the wine, still processing, and I sank into a lawn chair as if I belonged. Someone passed me chips, another offered a slice of watermelon. The day heated up, sand between toes, distant children shrieking. My relatives assembled in a circle, parents at the center, kids passing beach balls, dances of cicadas in the dunes. Mia cleared her throat. Thanks, Sam. We appreciate you coming. I sipped wine, tasting freedom. Of course, it's family. Laughter rose. They pulled me into the volleyball game, cheering every spike, every misstep. Dad dove for a ball, sand sprayed. Mom clapped, offering encouragement. In that moment, I realized they'd never given me the chance to rebuild. So I showed up, and they had to include me. As the sun dipped, we lit tiki torches and a soft hush fell. Island music from Dad's portable speaker. Someone strummed a guitar. I looked around at my family, some still wary, some hopeful, and felt a swell of pride. They thought banning me meant removing me. But I'd owned the very foundation of their memories. The beach house was my secret, my gift, my quiet revenge. I raised my plastic cup. To family, I said, voice warm. They echoed. To family, hesitated, then smiled and drank. The waves whispered in applause. I closed my eyes, letting the sea breeze write redemption on my heart. Tomorrow, we'd dig deeper into our grudges, share old stories, maybe air apologies. But today, they discovered that sometimes the best way to be loved is to simply be there, owning the ground they stand on, ready or not. The tide was turning. That first night under the tiki torches, I curled up on the screened-in porch with a glass of rosé and watched my family greet my return, as if I'd simply emerged from a long vacation. Conversations fluttered between cousins, catching up on college, aunts comparing new swimsuit styles, uncles swapping fish stories in leaning chairs. But beneath the laughter, I sensed an undercurrent of unease, glances cast at the house I owned, at the keys in my pocket, at the sudden warmth of my welcome. The tide had turned in more ways than one. By Monday morning, breakfast felt different. Mom hovered over the stove, flipping blueberry pancakes and glancing at me over her shoulder. You slept well? She asked, adjusting her apron. I poured myself orange juice. Like a rock. Beach air is restorative. I offered a small smile. She nodded, stirring her coffee. I'm glad you came. About Saturday, we shouldn't have cut you out. Her words tumbled out softly, genuine. I ladled pancakes onto my plate. I know you were hurt by last year's incident, but banning me, it backfired. I paused, but I forgive you. Mom's eyes glistened. Thank you, Sam. We missed you. I took a bite, savoring both syrup and reconciliation. I missed you too. Downstairs, Dad had turned the porch into a war room for cleaning up the yard, trash cans, lawn chairs, even the barbecue on its side from Saturday's game. I stepped outside as he wrestled with a grill leg. Need a hand? I asked, grabbing the other side. He straightened, sweat beading on his forehead. Thanks. He paused, then swore quietly. I thought I'd get you to move on. But I miss my daughter. He looked at the battered grill. We smashing this thing? I chuckled. Only metaphorically. Together we righted it. It's not about erasing the past, Dad. It's about grilling new memories. He laughed and ruffled my hair. That's my girl. His pride felt like sunbeams. Mid-morning, I slipped into the kitchen to retrieve more sodas and found Mia perched at the island, phone in hand, scrolling through the family group chat. You're trending, she said without looking up. Everyone's posting reunion snaps, sand volleyball, sunrise yoga, your dramatic reappearance. She scrolled. Look, they even coined a hashtag, #BeachHouseSurprise. I leaned against the counter. Legend in the making. She set the phone down, expression thoughtful. I admit, I was angry, but it felt petty. You saved us from a boring reunion, and from our own grudges. She met my eyes. Thank you. I smiled. I intended to teach you a lesson, but I learned one too. Her eyebrows rose. Oh? She looked hopeful. I winked. Family is too good to lose over old fights. She laughed. Amen to that. By midday, we'd rallied everyone for a beachside cleanup. Kids scouring for seashells, teens snapping selfies, uncles hauling driftwood for firewood. I passed a red cooler to the volunteers and overheard two of my cousins, Jackie and Drew, whispering. "He owns the place," Jackie said, shaking her head in wonder. "Sam bought it months ago." "Dad's been hiding it," Drew shrugged. "We all thought the house was inherited. Nice move, though. Kinda genius." I popped my head around the dune grass. "Got room for one more volunteer?" They jumped. Yeah. We need another bucket down here." I joined them, but I let the revelation sink in. I'd changed the dynamic not just by showing up, but through quiet foresight. They realized I wasn't powerless. I controlled the very soil they walked on. That evening, as the golden hour softened the sky, my siblings, Mia, Jacob, and Clara, gathered on the boards leading to the old dock for a family photo. Dad had set up his phone on a makeshift tripod, and we lined up, Mom, Dad, me in the middle, flanked by the next generation. "Okay, kids," Dad said, eyes bright. "Smile." We beamed, and just as Dad's timer clicked, Clara winked at me, Mom grimaced adorably, and Dad's hair flapped in the wind. The resulting shot was chaotic and perfect. Dad reviewed the photo. "That's the real us. No pretense." I swallowed. "I think that's the first photo I'm happy to share." Mom wiped her eyes. "Me too." That night, after dinner, I walked up to the bluff overlooking the waves. Joined by Mia, the sky was a canvas of pink and lavender. "You know," she said softly, "I wish I'd known all this earlier. I thought cutting you out would help me prove I was in charge." I sighed, remembering the sting of her text. "Power's overrated. Belonging is better." She pulled at her hair. "I was scared you'd overshadow me. Always the free spirit." I shook my head. "I want to see you shine, not shade you. We're better together." We hugged, salt wind atop the bluff. That embrace felt like healing. The next morning, the family adventured out, paddle boards, kayaks, a rented pontoon boat. I helmed the board on the tide, coaxing giggles from my nieces and nephews as they paddled beside me. Their laughter buoyed me higher than any board could. Back on shore, the cousins spied a sandcastle competition. We dove in, molding moats and towers. Mom chased me with a bucket of water. Dad toppled my castle. Soon the whole clan joined. The result was a ramshackle fortress, but an everlasting memory. By lunchtime on the final day, we gathered on the deck for a barbecue. The early bird fishers lugged in their catch. Dad flared the coals. Mom grilled heirloom veggie burgers and garlic shrimp. Mia passed around old family photo albums she'd dusted off for the occasion. Laughter bubbled as we recounted campfire ghost stories and Aunt Ruth's notorious dance moves from decades past. I sat between Mom and Dad, plate full, heart full. Mom whispered, "I'm so sorry I hurt you." I took her hand. "You showed up. That's what matters." Dad clinked his glass against mine. "To family and to our newest homeowner." I laughed, clinking back. "And to many more reunions." As the sun dipped low, we drifted apart for quiet moments. I wandered to the porch swing and found Dad there, nursing a glass of wine. "Tell me," he said, looking out at the dunes. "Why buy the house instead of asking us to patch things up?" I sat beside him. I needed to know I had a choice. That the door wasn't locked. He nodded, swallowing, "We were wrong to bolt it." I smiled, and I got to unlock it. A warm silence settled, the lull before departure. That evening, we packed up, hugs and tears weaving through the final moments. I handed Mom the key ring, an extra set of keys. "Here," I said. "Keep one, let's never do this again." She pressed it to her heart. "Thank you." She kissed my cheek. Dad clasped my shoulder. "We love you." I hugged them both. "Love you more." As we drove away in convoy, trucks, cars, vans, I watched the beach house recede, its windows glowing against the darkening sky. Mia waved from the porch, then vanished inside to lock up. I felt the house pulse with the life we'd reignited. On the ride back, the van fell quiet in contented tiredness. Kids fell asleep on laps. Adults chatted softly. I looked out at the dunes, under a rising moon, and savored the knowledge that no amount of exclusion could erase what I owned, and what I chose to give back. Because owning the house wasn't the point. The point was opening its doors, to forgiveness, to belonging, to the next reunion that would find us whole again. And as I drifted into sleep in the back seat, I knew they'd remember this reunion, not as the one they tried to bar me from, but as the one where I unlocked everything they ever lost.